we need to discuss whether we want to have a special election, create an ordinance, and a resolution for a special election. And if additionally, we want to create a resolution and ordinance for a emergency election. So let's keep it within those parameters. Mr. Ward?
This matter concerns a proposed ordinance and resolution that are submitted for your consideration in order to provide the city with the option of having an election on referendum and initiative issues more frequently and at different times than our current customary election held in the spring every 2 years.
Question is the letter that we received last week from ADOT a public document?
Yes, it is.
It is? It seems to me that has a lot of pertinence in making the decision here. ADOT has told us that they're not going to transfer the money when they said they would, which would have been yesterday. And that there's obviously some clear possibility they wouldn't transfer the money at all because of this pending issue, and hence the agreement would die, and the point of any referendum would be moot. Is it my understanding that if that sequence of possibility takes place, that we would still have to hold a referendum election and spend that $25,000 it's going to cost the city to do that anyway, even though the point is no longer there?
I don't think I can't recall when this issue has ever come up, but I certainly would not want to opine that, based on my opinion, we would not need to have a referendum. And it might take a judge's decision to determine whether or not a referendum could be taken off the ballot. But I think the safest conclusion at this point would be that if in fact the signature requirements for the referendum are met, that those people have expressed the desire to have an election, and the election would have to go forth.
What would such an election mean if the route transfer had expired in June because ADOT let it? What would it mean?
I don't know if it would help us to know in retrospect what the feelings of the community really were on the issue, even though it probably doesn't matter anymore.
It's my understanding that initiative is forthcoming as well. So the initiative would require a special election, even if the referendum was a moot point.
That's correct.
So there are no primary and general election dates for March and August. Those are considered to be general?
Those are dates in which you can call a special election.
Okay, so we're not restricted to a general election date.
No, not for a
And
referendum.
the only thing that the emergency option gives us is just the discretionary ability to make the August date if we physically can.
Correct. If it was, and you don't have to decide tonight what day you want to call as the election, but if you wanted to have that option available, we would recommend you passing this ordinance as an emergency measure. That would at least give you that option. And then if you wanted to discuss it or study it further before making that decision, you could do so, but that decision would have to be made by April 26th.
Since we have a representative democracy, what acts or decisions of the city council would be open to initiative and referendums in general if we were to approve this resolution? And I heard talk about executive versus legislative decisions. If we go ahead with this, we're opening ourselves up to the possibility and more of referendums or initiatives. And I think everybody up here believes in democracy. I just want to get a sense of what kind of things we would be open up to, decisions that we make or acts that we do.
Well, let me first of all clarify that this ordinance isn't necessary in order for someone to begin a referendum or an initiative. If we don't do this ordinance, we still have to have an election. And so the people's right to enact legislation by way of referendum or initiative is a right set forth in the Arizona Constitution. And this is merely, this code provision is merely an opportunity to help clarify some of the procedural issues in the city doing an initiative or referendum, and the statutes give us the authority to create these parameters that we're proposing, so that we have some control over the process, a little more than what the state statutes allow without this. And so this really doesn't have anything to do with creating a right of referendum in the electorate. And in terms of what people can initiate or refer, it has to come in, and there's a lot of case law on trying to define that, but essentially the cases say that you have the right to legislate by way of referendum, or you have the right to challenge legislation. You would not have the right to challenge an administrative act on the part of a city government, only a legislative act. And so that, in a nutshell, is kind of the parameters of what people can do by way of initiative or referendum.
So in your opinion, did we make an administrative or legislative decision when we voted to take back the highway?
Well, it's my personal opinion that it was a legislative decision, yes. An application for an initiative number has been requested, but no petitions or signatures on the initiative have been filed yet.
No, I guess my question was not correct. The wording, that application letter contains a specific wording that would be in the initiative measure, is that?
Yes.
So we know specifically what that says. Do you have that available, or?
No, I don't have that available.
Is there any compelling reason to do August over November that would cause us to opt one for the other?
Well, I think we all would like to see a decision sooner rather than later. That's, I think, the one most compelling reason is that it would give certainty to these issues sooner. But aside from that, no.
Statement.
Terry, I need your name and the city in which you reside.
Terry Frankel, and I reside in Sedona, Arizona for 17 years.
Thank you.
Some members of council are scratching their heads and wondering why their decision to take over financial responsibilities of 89A from ADOT is being challenged with a referendum. Some of you are saying, well, the people who signed the referendum petitions were not the people who voted for us. Not true. I gathered many of those signatures, as did countless others. And over, people commented on how they did indeed vote for this council and are very unhappy that they did. Why are so many people unhappy? The answer is simple. Council is not listening to the desires of a clear majority of Sedona residents. Council used taxpayer funds to pay Research Solutions to do a scientific and validated poll of Sedona residents regarding the community's position on the 89A turnback. Research Solutions concluded that a clear majority of Sedona residents did not want the takeback of 89A. Council did not agree with the findings, so Council first tried to attack the credibility of Research Solutions. They failed. Council then tried to discredit Research Solutions' findings, again unsuccessfully. So what did Council do? They simply ignored the findings altogether and voted for the turnback anyway, discounting the desire by the vast majority of Sedona citizens to not own a state highway in the midst of a deteriorating economy. This sent a message that Council is unwilling to listen to the real concerns of their constituents. By putting blinders on, Council has created a credibility gap between themselves and the general population of those they represent. Now that we have a referendum looming, rather than be open to our concerns, Council's latest tactic is to add a tariff to the expression of our opinions on the pre-referendum material sent to the public. Council has slipped in a surcharge of $200 and $250 per opinion voiced, thus disenfranchising many voters from their democratic right to have their voices heard. Council has also stipulated that our addresses and phone numbers must accompany our opinions, thus subjecting us to be possibly harassed by those who disagree with our position. I ask you, is this democracy in action? If council continues to ignore the financial concerns of Sedona's population in a tenuous economy at best, then the referendum has a high probability of overturning council's vote on the turn back. I'm almost finished. Forgive me, I lost my voice. Council has the option of taking the community concerns seriously and showing this by reversing their vote on the take-back of 89A. This would require a desire to do the right thing and great moral courage on their part. We urge you to stop sticking your heads in the sand and face the inevitable. The will of the majority of people you represent will be heard, no matter how many barriers and roadblocks you may put in our way. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Terry?
I have a question on the $250, for a charge for having an argument. Now, that's an argument that becomes part of a pamphlet.
Correct.
So is this normal? Do cities do this as a matter of course?
Yeah, we adopted pretty much the version that we have from Oro Valley, and that's a charge that they had in their ordinance. We just have one motion for the council's consideration, and that motion is to pass ordinance number 2011-05. A vote in favor of this would adopt the proposed amendments to the city code that would not become effective for 30 days. And because they would not become effective for 30 days, the soonest election that could be called, if this motion passes, would be November 8th.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.